episode of Latinos Who Tech. My name is Hugo Castellanos, and I work anywhere I want, as long as there's Wi-Fi. Thank you for your patience as I publish new episodes. A couple big developments have happened in my life. First of all, we moved from the West Coast back home to the East Coast. And I just got married. And I'm really excited about this new chapter of life. And I look forward to it. 2020 has been an eventful year, so I'm actually looking forward to making new memories. I'm sure that this has been a traumatic experience for a lot of us. So, sprinkling these positive memories and these positive occurrences over the year have certainly helped me. Looking forward to this new adventure. And in this episode, I spoke with my good friend, Ismael Verduzco. He goes by Ish. And Ish, you know him from episode 8, Live at LinkedIn. He's a social media marketing expert. And he actually left LinkedIn, went back home to Southern California to work at Snapchat for a while. He was there for a year and change. And he just joined a startup as a director of growth. It's called Crave It. And Crave It is an app that's to help you fulfill all of your food needs. So making dishes, ordering, and again, it wants to be this intersection of all your food needs. So check it out. Go to Crave It, Google it, sign up for the waiting list that they have in the app. And again, my friend Ish, he's actually the most intense person I know. Again, he comes from a humble background, growing up in Southern California. And something that stuck with me was the fact that by the time he was in high school, his family had moved 12 times in search of better opportunities. And 12 times. So think about that for a second. By high school. And, when it comes to his journey in tech, Ish had the opportunity to go to college at the University of California, Merced, which is it's a smaller school. I believe is the newest university of the newest campus of the University of California. And it wasn't until after he graduated that he realized that, hey, I need to hustle to look for opportunities. I need to network. I need to ask for referrals. And that's how he found his first job in LinkedIn. And he tells us the whole story in episode 8 of Latinos Who Tech. And now, again, as I said, Ish, he's very intense. He's very systematic. And he's the kind of person that, again, he sees a challenge. I'm going to, he reads something that, waking up at 5 in the morning to work out and to start your day right is good for you. And he will do it. He will experiment with it. He will wake up at 5 a.m. for 30 days straight and then write blogs about his experience. So I always see him as like the Latino Tim Ferriss, if you will. Something really interesting about this intersection, right, of career development and being Latino, Hispanic, Latinx, is the fact that a lot of the advice that we get, it comes from people that don't look like us. You have folks like Tim Ferriss. You have folks like Tony Robbins. You have folks that, again, they don't look like us. So it's always fresh to me. Like, it's always refreshing to actually see somebody that's Latino and is doing great things like Ish. And Ish, he's not only director at Crave It, this startup now, he's also an author. He wrote a book called Getting Ish Done. He has a podcast where he interviews Latinos in tech that he actually launched right after coming here to this show. So that was really exciting. I'm really, really happy that he had a positive experience, and it was such a positive experience that he decided to launch his own show. So I'm really, really, really proud to, again, if I had like 1% to do with that, I'm super proud about that. And so in this episode, we spoke about the process of writing a book, how he's coping up with the pandemic, and also, again, systems that he has to be productive and to get ish done. So check out his podcast, check out his book. I realized that this episode was recorded earlier in 2020, so some of the reference might not be as timely. And again, I'm committed to add value to you, so I'm gonna do a giveaway of the book on the Latinos Who Tech Instagram. So if you go to the Latinos Who Tech Instagram, and what you do is that you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast and you share it and tag Latinos Who Tech, I will send you a copy of the book via Amazon. So I'll buy a copy of the book for Kindle and I will send it to you. Now, I will only do this for the first 5 people that do it. So keep that in mind. So you gotta act and you'll get a free book. And not only a free book, but a great book that's gonna teach you some of the frameworks that Ish has learned along the way, interviewing folks that work in tech, and also in looking up to role models that we have in this world. So go to Latinos Who Tech Instagram, follow us, take a screenshot of you listening to this episode, do it now, and share it, tag Latinos Who Tech, and I will get a copy to the first 5 people that do that. Now, before we start the actual conversation with Ismael, I'm actually very happy to announce that this episode is brought to you by SHPE, Leading Hispanics in STEM. So SHPE, as we know, is Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and they have a new brand. So it's SHPE, Leading Hispanics in STEM. And October means one thing, besides Halloween. October also means SHPE conference is around the corner. So you often heard me talk about SHPE and how it's helped me become the professional I am today. Not only by bringing me this network of Hispanics in STEM, but also hosting workshops on networking, again, practicing your elevator pitch, learning about, again, innovation from different companies. Again, Boeing, Lockheed, Texas Instruments, Intel, Google, Facebook, all these companies, they go to the SHPE convention every year and they recruit talent. So professionals, students looking for internships. And even if you're not in the market, but again, 2020 has been a rough year for a lot of people. So I'm sure that a lot of you are in the market. It's a great way to land an internship or a full-time job. Because again, there's 250 plus companies that go to recruit at the convention. And the convention this year is going to be fully virtual. It's going to be happening October 26th through the 31st. And you're going to be there with thousands of professionals that want to network, that want to grow along with you. And it's going to be fully online. And you can sign up going to shep.org/2020. So that's shep.org/2020. And I believe that the convention this year, it cost $200. And granted, I know that for some of you that might seem a bit steep, but the way that I look at it is that, hey, if you land a job, an opportunity that's gonna pay you $120,000 a year, for example, $200 is change. Right, so it's one of those things that you need to look at the equation here. Right, you're not guaranteed a job, but if you don't go and interview with companies, you're never gonna find out if you're gonna get a job or not. So again, I go even when I'm not looking for a job. I would go to the SHPE convention because they offer workshops on career development. They have an entrepreneurs track. So if you're launching your own company, you're launching your own business, they have workshops on demand and live workshops as well about that. Again, if you're a student, if you're new to the workforce, they have things like resume reviews. So you can actually get your resume reviewed by professionals that work at the companies you want to work on. And the way that it usually works, and if you're familiar with SHPE, if you've been to the National Convention before, is that you actually go to, one of the live workshops from the companies you're following. So let's say that you go to the Texas Instruments workshop, and they talk about their new SoC technology. And you see the presenter, the speaker, and you see the other Texas Instruments folks that go attend the workshop along with the students and other professionals. And what happens is that you see their names, and then you go to the virtual career booth and you will see them again. So if you ask questions, if you participate, if you actually, they'll recognize you. So it's a great way to not only be involved, but also get your name out there. And what happens is that sometimes I go to a workshop from a company that, again, it's probably it's not in my focus area. Like I will go to a workshop by an automotive company because I like what they talk about. Maybe it sounds interesting to me. Maybe they talk about lean manufacturing. And I will connect with the speaker, add them in LinkedIn, start building a relationship. And next thing you know, I probably have a new podcast guest that I can bring to you, and they can add value to you. So again, the SHPE National Convention is my favorite time of the year. I actually have friends that I only get to see at the National Convention. This year is going to be virtual. So again, we'll make the best out of it, because the way that I see it, again, 2020, it's been an eventful year for all of us. So anything that helps tie me back to my community, to the people I care about, I welcome. So check it out, shep.org/2020. You're still in time to register. It's going to be between October 26th and 31st of 2020. So check it out. And here we go. Now, the full conversation with Ish Verduzco from Getting Ish Done. Thank you. Ish Verduzco, welcome to Latinos Who Tech.
I'm so excited to be back, man. It's great to see you, and the fresh haircut too.
Yeah, the Rona haircuts. They're in fashion right now. Yeah, man. Thank you for making the time, man. I'm glad that I caught you at home.
Thank you, bro. Not much else I could do.
Nice, man. Nice. So, what's in your mind? What's keeping you sane nowadays?
The book is really top of mind. Family is really top of mind as well. Trying to see them as much as possible while being cautious in terms of everything that's going on in the world. And then another thing that's top of mind is like a lot of my friends. I feel like a lot of my friends are going through a really tough time right now. So just trying to be there for them, being supportive, being a good ally, and just keeping in tune with the world without being too in tune. So like without watching too much news, without getting caught up with all the craziness, while still being educated in terms of what's going on, if that makes sense.
I hear you. Especially working in social media, right? And
yeah,
I'm sure that tuning out some stuff can be difficult at times. So.
Yeah.
Do you have any like social media habits? Like you track how much time you spend in Instagram, LinkedIn? Do you have like social media blocker? Do you any of that?
It's been built intuition. So throughout the entire last 8 months of writing the book, I built a really good habit and ritual of only using social media to consume content from certain people. So if I'm going to social media, I'm going to go to a certain page or check in on a certain friend or post to share out content. And then LinkedIn, I would go like on a daily basis, regularly throughout the day, but it's mostly with the intent of sharing content or finding good content to reshare. So I got out of the social media endless loop where you just endlessly scroll, just because I didn't have enough time. Like I literally was like writing a book, juggling a full-time job, trying to work out, sleep 7.5 hours a night. So I figured social media was one of the things that either had to be cut or had to be limited. And then it just built it into a habit, and now I'm getting a little bit better at it.
That's awesome. And something I really enjoyed following you on Instagram was this 300 workout challenge, like 300 workouts in 2020. So what was that about?
Yeah, man. So fitness has always been a really big thing in my life. I've always tried to stay on top of my like workout game and work out a couple of days a week at least. since I was, I don't know, high school. And then towards the end of last year, I started thinking like, man, I wonder how many workouts I hit this year. And I tried to count, but I couldn't really like put a number on it. Like it was a really rough number. So then I started thinking like, man, it would be pretty cool if I did like, I don't know, 250 workouts next year. And I would track them. And I was like, 250, that's kind of a whack number. I think that averages out to like 5 or something like that. Like what would be really challenging? What would be a really up there goal that I could do? And I was like, 300 would be really crazy. 300 workouts in 365 days. I was like, okay, so let's see if I could do it. And then I put it out into my social media, like my network and my audience. And a ton of people were like, wow, I want to do this with you. Like, I want to push myself and challenge myself. And fast forward to now, like we're ending May and I have 95 people who are doing it with me. And we're all in Instagram groups, motivating each other, inspiring each other, sharing our workouts and tracking them, holding each other accountable, which is pretty awesome. And I think I'm at like 140 or something for the year, which is probably a lot more than I would have done if I wasn't tracking them.
Definitely. And I find that everybody has their own style, right? There's people that can just motivate themselves and they say, I will do this, and they'll do it. But there's some other people like me, like I do need to have that external motivation, right? Like I need to, it helps me if I put it out there. If I say that, oh, I will release this episode on Saturday.
I'm just like that. I'm literally just like that. That's why I had to put it out there. It's like hold myself accountable by people who know me and will check me if I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Is that I like to? I'm sure that there's a psychological term for that, but I like to call it positive peer pressure. Again, this idea that hey, you have this accountability partner, and it's informal. Like it doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be a coach. It doesn't have to be like a mentor or somebody like it's just a friend, an acquaintance that you say that you put it out there, and hey, if I said I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. You go back to the 4 agreements, right? Like be impeccable with your word. Do follow through on the things that you say you will do. Walk me through the book. So the writing process. I mean, because you have your full-time tech job at the Snapchat, and I'm wondering, how are you carving out the hours to write this? Well, first of all, I mean, we can start maybe with like, what's the book about? And then what's the process of writing while having a full-time job?
Yep, great questions. So the book is essentially a 7-step framework to achieve your goals. And I know when people hear that, they're probably like, great, another book to achieve goals. Like there's thousands of these books. And somebody recently asked me on LinkedIn when I posted about it, they said, what makes, like no offense, but I'm really curious, what makes your book different from the thousands of other self-help books out there? And then I responded with, well, to be completely honest, it's the audience that makes it different. Like I wrote this book with a different audience in mind. So the primary audience and anybody that picks up the book will gain knowledge from it and gain a ton of insights and learnings. But I wrote it for an underrepresented group that isn't usually top of mind. I'm talking about like the Latinos, I'm talking about Black, I'm talking about Asian American, like these groups that when you think of the self-help and self-development industry, there isn't a ton of representation of those types of people at the author level, at the level that are creating content. So that translates when you read the content, because a lot of the examples and the references and the language doesn't always like hit home, if you will. Like you're going to learn a ton of value from Tim Ferriss book or Ryan Holiday book, but it's a little bit different if the person who wrote it comes from a similar background as you do, and they drop in a couple of references that you get and you understand, and they're like jokes or humor. So that's kind of like, I guess, what the book is and who it's for. The writing process itself was insane. It's by far the most difficult thing that I've ever done, and that I've done a lot of like really big projects and crazy things in my life.
Dude, you're an intense guy. like you don't do things halfway. It's like I think like you read that book, the 5 a.m. Miracle, and then you realize that and then you said, oh yeah, I'm gonna start waking up at 5 a.m. every day, and then you would actually document the thing. And I'm like, dude, what the hell? It's like well, I'm happy that Ish is my friend, because if he was my enemy, I mean, he won already. No, you're a pretty intense guy in that sense, like following through and doing the goal setting, the execution part of things.
Yeah, man, but it was difficult. It was extremely difficult. I'll start by saying that I didn't plan on writing a book to begin with.
Okay.
This journey kind of started a few years ago before you and I even met, and I read a book called Smart Cuts by Shane Snow, one of my favorite books. I highly recommend it to everybody. prior to reading that book, I wasn't a reader and I wasn't a writer. And when I say I wasn't a reader, I mean like in high school, I read because I was forced to, not because I liked to do. In college, I didn't really read the books as much as I probably should have. I still passed my classes, a ton of extra credit and alpha hours, but like I've never been one to be attracted to reading. But that book for some reason changed my mindset in terms of like, wow, there's knowledge out there through the form of books that I'm not getting through the form of blogs or social media. And so after reading that book, I went down a rabbit hole of just like learning. Read like 45 books last year, all like self-development and like self-improvement. Like I'm a huge podcast fan, so like 2 hours of podcast a day listening to like Short Story Long, Tom Bilyeu, Tim Ferriss, just like podcast after podcast after podcast. And then it got to a point one day when I was driving down to see my sister in San Diego. We were just gonna have like a lunch date, and I was listening to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And something in that book just made it click in my head. Like, you are being selfish by not sharing what you're learning. That's kind of like what I told myself. Like, I'm being selfish by not sharing the things that I'm learning with my community and people that I know that can gain value from it. And so continuing to drive down the 5, I started thinking like, well, how would I share this? I'm not a good writer, so books out the picture. Maybe I could do a vlog series. Like, yeah, my personality is okay, but I don't think I'm the best on camera, so maybe not vlog series. And then I was like, okay, I could do a blogs. Blogs are shorter, easier to write. I could do a bunch of them, put them out weekly. And then I started to think like, how many blogs in my life have I read that I truly embody and embrace the key takeaways? Like, you read a ton of interesting blogs and you like write them down. You're like, wow, that's interesting. You remember that fact or you implement that strategy. And then I started thinking, out of the 45 books or all these books that I've been reading, how many of them do I implement the core message that they're trying to share? And nearly all of them, starting with Smart Cuts, like the way his platform thinking, I use that in my career 3 different times to transition my career. I use that in DJing, I use it in events, I use it in podcasts, everything. So then I was like, it has to be a book. Like, there's no other option. And then that's when the writing process began. I hired an editor to help me and coach me throughout the entire process. I hired a designer to help me with the graphics and the infographics and all of that. So it just got more and more intense, and throughout the process it became more and more difficult.
Right.
But
yeah, but that's like you're serious, right? When you start hiring people, when you start opening up your wallet and hiring people, and you know,
put your money where your mouth is. You don't want to waste your money.
Yeah, that's the ultimate accountability partner, right? Like that, you hired an editor that's going to help you with the content. So great. So you're getting all this knowledge from your life experiences, from networking, from mentors, from people you've interviewed at your podcast. Check it out. But again, how are you seeking feedback? So when you're outlining a chapter, and again, like, I'm sure that we've all experienced that nerve-wracking part of, okay, let me show my boss what I've done, or let me show this director, this VP, the social media campaign I have in mind. So there's always this fear of seeking feedback that I think that a lot of people experience. So I'm curious on, how do you seek feedback, and then how do you cope with those feelings of anxiety or jitters that people get seeking feedback?
I have an interesting relationship with feedback, because like you said, a couple of years ago when I first started working in tech, I was extremely scared to receive it. And then I went to a speaker series one day, and somebody was like, hey, if you think about feedback as like it being a gift versus it being like a scary thing, then you can use every single time somebody gives you a piece of feedback to get better. And that literally just changed my frame of mind. So like after that point, back in like 2015, moving forward, all my bosses, I would ask them for feedback continuously and like genuinely absorb whatever they were saying and implement it. So in terms of writing the book, it was like two part feedback strategy. One was continuous. So I was continuously using my network, posting on Instagram, posting on Twitter, posting on LinkedIn, and like biting for ideas and biting for things, in terms of like putting something out there that was from the book that I might include, and seeing if people engaged with it, or asking my group of friends via text or Instagram groups and just saying like, hey, what do y'all think about this? So that was like a continuous loop always throughout the entire time of writing it. The second part was directly asking specific people for feedback and each person with specific questions. So in terms of the target audience for the book, I wrote it for mainly, I mean, anybody was going to gain value, but mainly 18 to 35-year-olds from underrepresented groups. Whether you're the first generation college student, Black, Latino, etc. I wrote it with them in mind. So what I did is basically I picked 10 different people within that age group. And then as I was writing, I would shoot them ideas, or I would shoot them the outline, or I would shoot them main key points from the book and key messages, and I would constantly get their feedback. Then there was within that, there was like a second, like other 10 people. And those are people that may not fall within that target audience, but are really good writers and really good at content creation and really good people when it comes to like developing ideas. And so that second group of people were essentially my coaches, my mentors. So I would lean on them in terms of like, yo, what do you think about this? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Like I have 3 friends, I mean, basically mentors who've written books in the past. And I had regular meetings with them throughout the process of writing it. And I would check in with them. Hey, here's the latest draft. Here's the latest draft. What do you think about this? I have a question here. And they would give me direct feedback, knowing that it's like coming from a good place. And then I would iterate based off everything and almost like compiling it, but without taking one piece of feedback too literally, because knowing that there's a whole different audience or segment that is going to influence another piece of the book as well. And then I had to add my flavor in as well. So I'm not going to take everybody's feedback and implement it all, because then it doesn't become what I want for the book.
Right. Yeah, because you do have your voice and your style.
Exactly.
And then feedback is to help make you stronger.
Exactly.
But it's ultimately you that are doing the writing. So that's really, really interesting. And I think that's genius. You know, the idea of, well, I'm writing with this person in mind. Let me ask them, what do they think? Like, is this relatable, right?
Exactly.
And I find that feedback, a lot of it, you can use it in certain situations, right? Like writing would be tricky, right? Because are you emailing them like a copy of the chapter? Are you asking them ideas via social? How are you seeking that feedback? Like, tactically?
Everything, man. Like everything from Instagram message, like, hey, here's an idea for the book. Here's an idea for a main theme for a chapter within the book. Does this make sense to you? If you read this without reading anything else in the book, does it make sense? And I would like kind of get like bites of feedback there. For other people, I would send them the entire copy of the book. Like as soon as I had a first draft, maybe like 2 months ago, and I went through 6 total drafts. So it was 3 rough drafts and 3 final drafts. And now I have the final, which we just uploaded like yesterday. But once I had the first draft, I was just like sending it to that same group of people and just like asking very specific questions. So I would ask like 3 different questions. One of the questions was around, what did you gain from this book? What's the one key message that you got from it? And then the second question was like, if you had to cut out 20% of the book, what would it be? And the last thing would be like, do you have any overall themes, like thematic feedback that you would give me in terms of like the writing, the style, the language? And then I was like, I'm open to any other feedback as well, but I just need those 3 questions at least, because then it allows you to like to see the data over like a larger group versus just one that could be an outlier.
Got it. And as far as shaping the ideas, are you keeping this all in like Google Docs, or are you doing anything fancier than that? Like
Yeah, man, it was a really long Google Doc. I mean, it was the first draft. Before I hired my editor, I had a 50-page Google Doc of a brain dump, and the first 2 pages was an outline. So it was just like, hey, here's the title of the book that I'm thinking. Here's the theme. Here's the target audience. Here are some audience personas. Here's who those people could potentially be. Here's what they do in their life. Here's the way they speak, their interests, their age, their employer, like fake ones, obviously, but like I wanted to really get a grasp around like who's it that we're speaking to. And then I included like the chapter outlines. Here's what I'm thinking. Here are the sub chapters, because I had done all the research already. So then it was just like compiling it all together, which was the hard part. And then my editor also helped me in terms of like, I would move this thing around here because when you're reading a book, it's going to make sense to absorb that because it's going to impact later on in the book. So they helped, but it was just a really long Google Doc, honestly. And then we worked through that and started building out each individual chapter one by one. I guess you'd probably be interested to know like the writing process itself. So once we started working together, I gave him about a week and a half, 2 weeks to just read everything that I had gone through. And then he started to pick at different things. After he picked at everything, he sent it back to me. I sent it back to him. And then moving from that point, moving forward over the next, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, it was like every other week we would sync and he would send over a new version of the book. I would send it back to him. So when he would send it over to me, it was like, dig in here, more context here. What does this mean? I would send it back to him with all of that information, but with more questions. So it was a lot of red ink in a Word document. And then once we started forming each chapter, again, back and forth. There's 9 chapters in total, so it took at least 9 weeks to go back and forth and ensure each one was crystal clear. And then once they were all done, it was like a couple of weeks of just me sitting down with 2 cups of coffee for 12 hours and reading the book front to back as many times as I could. And then again, the following weekend on a Saturday and Sunday, reading it again front to back, making sure it's good.
Yeah, I think you're catching up on all the reading that you didn't do back in middle school, high school. You're paying for it now.
I've probably read my book at least like 30 or 40 times. So yeah, I'm paying for it now.
Yeah, man. Well, it's your baby, right? So it's no, I'm definitely proud of you, man. And I think that we need to celebrate these achievements from our friends, and they don't have to be books, but blogs, podcasts, like, subscribe, share. Like, I mean, you're helping, right? Like the idea is that we are all helping each other as a community, man.
Yeah, thank you.
And I really enjoy the fact that it's all like a Google Doc and Word, because I'm a big productivity geek, and I go into these forums, man, and people have like 30 common threads arguing on, oh, Ulysses is the best software to write. No, I use Scrivener because, dude, just write.
Yeah, just write. Especially if you're like, my strength isn't editing. That's why I hired an editor. But I still use softwares like Grammarly to check my stuff. But in terms of like writing, he was just like, just start writing, man. He's like, put it all on paper, put all your thoughts on paper. Once you have it there, we can work and build it all out. He's like, let me do the heavy lifting in terms of editing and making sure the storyline makes sense. He's like, but for you, just write, put it in a doc, put it in a note, put it in a notebook. I literally have a piece of paper. So like, when I bought this book, all of this was like,
huge fan of these things.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I never used to be a person of like physical notebooks. This is probably the first one that I've consistently written in my entire life. And then something about writing on paper, it helps your ideas come together in a weird way. So like the first 10 pages of the thing are all marketing ideas. And it's like promo funnel, paid social, all this, identity groups, media outlets. I wouldn't have been able to like put my ideas together this well if it wasn't like in an online doc.
I hear you, because the thing is that if you start writing down in a computer, the thing is that your email's right there, and Slack's right there.
Facebook's right there, LinkedIn's right there, Twitter's right there.
And then let me just check quick my LinkedIn. And then I have 5 messages, and 2 of them are people that want to come to the podcast, and 2 are recruiters, and 1 is a friend catching up. And it's like, and next thing you're spending the next 45 minutes, like just doing stuff. Yeah, no, pen and paper. I'm a huge fan. I actually got this. I'm playing with this thing. It's called the Rocket Book.
Oh, nice.
And what it is that you can actually take you can actually wipe it clean after you write it.
So it's like it's not a digital one though, right?
No. It's completely analog. But the thing is that, and then it's going to be funny looking with the background. The thing is, it has a QR code.
QR code. Okay. So
you can actually scan it on Evernote and file it. And you can program it to do stuff like, oh yeah, upload it straight to my Google Docs.
That's cool.
So it's nice in the sense that I don't have to, where did I put those notes? Like, no, I just scan it at the end of the day and I'm done,
Yeah, I really like that. That's cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, tech is supposed to be helping us, right? So awesome, man. So switching gears a little bit, I'm curious about, I look at you like as not only my friend, but also my social media mentor, somebody I look up to. And I'm wondering, with what's happening with coronavirus and everybody's at home, either cooking bread or doing workouts via Instagram Live, or people are launching projects, right? People are starting YouTube channels. And again, I have a friend that she's actually doing mindfulness classes online So it's awesome to see people reinventing themselves in what they do. I'm wondering if you have like some common mistakes that you see on people that are starting out in social, and maybe how to avoid them, like some common mistakes that you see people doing from your perspective.
Yeah, probably the most common mistake, and especially around for people that are like developing a product or service, is not aligning your brand properly with the key message and the voice and tone in terms of how you're sharing out content. So the way that plays into like the real world is like I'm a big like health person, right? Like I'm big on working out and fitness and stuff. So by promoting a product and creating a product that is directly against all of that, just to make a quick buck or just to like get that sponsorship, I've been seeing a lot of people do that on social media lately, and it rubs it rubs me the wrong way. So I guess if that's if you're building a product or service, but another common mistake is people using all social platforms the same. So in terms of like copying and pasting from LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and just posting the exact same thing, I think one of the fascinating things about each different platform is people use them differently and they have a different mindset when they go to each different platform. When I'm on LinkedIn, I have a different mindset than when I'm on Twitter. When I'm on Twitter, I have a different mindset than when I'm on Instagram. So putting yourself in the mindset of your user or your audience and figuring out if you're going to use the same piece of content, it's fine, but how do you morph it differently? So I do this all the time. I might post a long form social media post on LinkedIn with my top takeaways on XYZ. And then on Instagram, I might post a photo of me doing it with just one line. And then on Twitter, I might do a thread and say like, hey, everybody, just want to share my top 10 takeaways for XYZ. Here's a thread. Boom, 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 boom. Versus just copying and pasting on each platform. On Facebook, it might be a poll or something. So I think one of the biggest things you could do is just figuring out what content do you have, what's the most interesting way to show it, and how can you make it native for each platform.
Got it. No, that's incredibly helpful. Something that I'm not sure if you enjoy that kind of content, but something that I really enjoy are Medium articles and things like testimonials in a way, but not quite. For example, somebody that wrote something. I tried to get an antibodies coronavirus test. This was my experience.
Yeah.
And they walk you through like the whole thing, right? Like, well, so I tried calling my provider. They didn't cover it. So I ended up going to this other place 20 miles from my house. I had to wait for 2 hours. And like they walk you through it and like they hold your hand and walk you through the journey.
Yeah, I love that.
So I really enjoy that kind of content as opposed as like opinion pieces, right? That from like people that are not experts on the matter, but people that actually live something, that experiential content, I guess, that's something I really enjoy. And I find that it translates really well for threads, for Twitter threads too.
Exactly. I was going to say it translates really well per platform too, because if you think about like Instagram, that same article would have been, here's me going to do the coronavirus test or whatever. And then like the process from getting in their car, a mask, showing up, with any paperwork that they had to do, answering questions, like it translates per platform too. So it's like finding whatever your strength is. If you're a writer, write blogs. If you're good at like, I don't know, video, create video. So it's just finding like what do you feel most comfortable with or what do you enjoy doing most in terms of creating content.
How do you feel about TikTok?
I'm actually thinking about creating a TikTok account. I'm a little bit skeptical in terms of like the engagement. I've read a couple of blogs, and in the social media space, a lot of people are saying that like the engagement is a little bit boosted. So I don't know if the rumors are true, but that's
what do you mean? And maybe for the people that are not familiar with these terms, what do you mean by engagement? Like, messages, follows, or no, totally fine.
So in terms of engagement, like views. So one of the things about social media is it triggers a part of your brain that gives you like a jolt of excitement. It gives you like a little bit of a boost. So when people see that they have likes and views and comments, it like makes them excited in that moment. It's very short-lived, but but you kind of feel a certain way when you see it. So I've read, and I'm not sure how true it is, that the numbers are boosted so that people feel more excited to use a platform and then therefore create even more content on it. And it's not an American-based social media company, so we can't really audit that stuff and check it.
Yeah,
But in terms of the
yeah.
platform, I think it's blowing up, and I think it's really cool still. The way it filled a void that we didn't have in terms of social media when Vine died out. Like that short formed, very quick, funny, lighthearted, almost like what is it, like when you combine a bunch of different videos in one piece of like video content. We didn't have anything that was specific to that. And obviously the fact that it's blowing up and people are using it a ton shows that it was needed.
Yeah, and I like the fact that now there's a place for people that like to dance.
Yeah, exactly.
That is not a YouTube dancing tutorial, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I just want to do my art form and show it.
I also have heard it's really addicting though. I mean, I don't use it too much, but my few friends that have used it, they're like, yo, I was on TikTok the other day for the first time. Next thing it was like 3 a.m. and I didn't even know how. They're like, what the heck? Where did the time go?
Yeah, they get you with the songs. The songs are catchy.
The songs are catchy. Yeah.
It's insane, man. Like I've been in YouTube and I've seen people that do videos on compilations of, oh yeah, these are the top 100 TikTok songs, and it's a 40-minute video.
Oh,
and I heard the whole thing. Like I just started playing in the background while doing something else, and I'm like, oh, I remember that one. Then I listened to one. Oh, quick! I gotta stop. I gotta add this to my Spotify.
Oh wow! I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, so the songs are really are catchy, and I don't use it. I mean, I'm one of those people, I guess, that again, it's based on the PRC, it's based on China, and I don't feel comfortable not knowing where my data is.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just don't download it, but I do appreciate the people that make wholesome content, right?
Yep.
I have a friend that, it's funny because in Conexiones, I mentioned that, oh yeah, TikTok, if I was you, I wouldn't download it. And she's a friend and she reached out to me and she told me, Hugo, I'm so sorry. I downloaded TikTok. I'm like, what are you saying sorry for? It's my opinion, right? Like you're free to do whatever you want. And then now, she's doing mental health content.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so she's teaching people how to do affirmations and how to journal and those things. So that's really cool, man. Like if you want to influence a younger audience, meet them where they are.
Exactly.
So again, you can use tools any which way you want, but I think as long as you use them in a positive way, feel free.
I agree 100%.
So do you have, when you're using platforms for like social media to network, to build relationships with people, any key takeaways, any advice for folks that want to build relationships that way?
Usually when I'm building relationships online, it tends to be like, if I'm seeking the relationship, it tends to be with like a group of people that are really aligned with either my background, my industry, or groups or online groups. So like if I'm adding random people, it's because they follow Latinos Who Tech on Instagram, because I know that we have that common interest in terms of we want to learn, we want to grow, we're part of a community. If I'm adding people on LinkedIn, it's because we're either in the social media space or in the diversity space or in the tech space or in the marketing space. So I'm adding with the intent of, I want to see if you add value to my network, and I want to add value to your network by sharing content. I'm not going to add you to get a job or anything like that. I just want to fill my network with people who are going to deliver content and deliver positivity and things that are going to give me value. Because I know I'm going to give you value by all the tons of content that I share on a daily basis, but I want it to be like both ways.
Right. And again, I find that a lot of people get anxious, and especially like young professionals that wait Hugo, like I don't know anybody at Facebook or Google but how many people do from university? Right. So maybe you have friends that happen to go to UC Merced as you, and you would add them up in a heartbeat because you have that commonality, right? Like things like being part of a first generation college student group, SHPE, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. You have all kinds of affinity groups. So I find that those are very powerful because again, I think like 80% of my friends are engineers. So whenever I want to spread out my network, I go, okay, let me go back to my affinity group for Latino or like first generation college students, and you have accountants and civil servants and lawyers and all kinds of people. So
Yeah, I love that.
there's some power. There's a lot of power to them. Organizations like Prospanica, Latinas in Tech, all those folks. I love them dearly, and
All my
I
favorite
think,
organizations.
yeah, man, Tequeria, like
Yeah.
all those folks. Because again, it's the power of community can't be understated.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome-ish. Anything else I should have asked you that I didn't ask? Anything else you'd like to add about the book? This is going to come out at the same time that the book is available, so go to Amazon, buy it right now.
Say this, like, anybody who picks up the book, just know that like I wrote it so intentionally in terms of every aspect of the book. Like when I was writing it, I studied all the different like self-help books that I learned from, not only like the key concept and the insights which eventually made it into the book, but everything from the graphics, the layout, the length, all of that. Like it all played a role into the book too. So like if the book isn't too long, it's like 250 pages. You can read it in a Sunday afternoon. I included graphics. I included infographics. I don't know how many books include literally like OG infographics to help tell the story. And I guess if you're like for the listeners that are interested in learning a little bit more, I'll give 2 chapters of the book so that they can understand and get a taste for it. The first chapter is actually chapter 1 after the intro, and I think it's the most important chapter of all, because without that one, all of the other ones will still work, but they won't work as efficiently. And this is the idea of whenever you and I hear about successful people, people often say, "Oh, that person is so self-aware." Hugo is successful because he's so self-aware. And the more that I started doing research about all these successful people, 930 hours of research I counted that I did. And I summed it up in like a book that you read in like 5 hours. But the one thing that I found about every single one of them is the term self-aware isn't the right term to use. You and I, when you look in the mirror, you are self-aware. You're aware of yourself. The actual term that you're trying to find is this idea of self-concept. So like the concept of yourself, Hugo, there are different aspects of it. There's your past self, there's your present self, and there's your future self. Your past self, and in the book I walk through an exercise, is Hugo, who were you growing up? What were your things that you were really interested in? What did you hate doing? How did your upbringing affect you in your life in different aspects, whether that's emotionally, whether that's physically, whether that's where you live, where you grew up, the people you understood, the people you got to meet, the clubs and organizations, the activities, your school, all of that. Analyze it, and then find the themes, write them down, jot this all down on a piece of paper. The next one is your present self. Currently you, what are you passionate about? What are you doing? Why do you do it? What makes you tick? How do you operate efficiently? What music gets you going? How do you get into the zone? All of that, write it all down. What are you passionate about? What do you hate doing? All that. And then write it down. And then the next one is like your future self. And it's like the future self is essentially who can you be in the future based on what you're most interested in now. So if you in 5 years want to be a best-selling author and an educator and a mentor to millions of people around the world, okay, well, why? Does your past self and current self, are all the themes aligned with that, or are you doing it because of external forces and external like influences? Because once you look at your past self, you'll start to see key themes. Like, I've always been interested about this. Ever since I was a kid, I always did this. When you ask your parents and your grandparents and your tios and your tias, you start to find all these themes. And then when you put all that together, now you have a holistic picture and a holistic view of who you are as an individual. And then the rest of the book outlines specific strategies and specific things that you can implement today in order to achieve your goals in the future. But without understanding who you are as an individual, the strategies won't be as effective as they need to be, or as they can be, if that makes sense. And then and another one that I'll quickly shout out is when I studied all these people, I learned something about them, but I couldn't explain what it was. And I developed a term in the book, and I note it and I'll be writing about it, like blogs and stuff. But it's a term that I said it's compound learning. And there's two aspects to how every single successful person is a compound learner. The first aspect is they use everything in their life and different aspects of their life as like constant learning moments towards one key goal or specific key goals. And I'll explain exactly like how that played into my life with writing the book. My goal was to write a book, write an amazing book that changed lives. So every single day I was observing in my daily interactions at Snap with my friends, conversations on Instagram, just observing everything and trying to find anything that would help me align towards that goal. And one thing is like at Snap, there was somebody who started on at the company very new, and it was like their first week. So they did a presentation on who they are. They did the entire presentation with Bitmojis, literally.
Nice.
Like, and I was like, whoa, that's one of the best presentations I've ever seen in my life. Like it was a 20-minute presentation, it flew by. So then I thought, eventually when the book launches, I'm gonna have to do presentations. I'm gonna do a similar style presentation than that he did in terms of like fewer text, more storytelling, more personality. So it's like using so many different areas of your life and constantly keeping an eye and ear out for things that are gonna help you achieve that goal. And the second part of compound learning is using every single moment that you can as a learning opportunity. So like these successful people, they read a ton of books. They listen to a lot of podcasts. They're always looking for an opportunity to better themselves and continue growing and continue learning. Whether that's finding dead space while you're washing the dishes to listen to a podcast, driving to your basketball practice and talking to your coach, or I don't know, like watching YouTube videos on how to improve when you're at lunch or something like that. So they're very good at like continuously learning, and that learning compounding on their previous learning and then compounding even more, and it just like exponentially grows. And so that's two of the pieces of the book, and I hope that gives people a little bit of a taste. And I guess the last thing is it's extremely actionable. So it's not like pie in the sky, here's how this person did it, and it's so far out of your purview because that person is not relatable. It's like, okay, here's how that person did it, yes, here's the strategy and the framework of how they did it, and here's how I did it with my specific examples. So I'm a lot more of a relatable person than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, even though he did come from humble beginnings, and I broke down his story as well. But yeah, man, I'm excited for people to read it. I think
Nice.
I wrote it with very good intentions. I wrote it to help people that have often been like overlooked, underrepresented, not well resourced enough, and I hope I summarized enough of the key points so that it's essentially 10 books in one. You get a taste about habit building, rituals and routines, why self-development, self-talk, ego, working deliberately, like all of these things I explain in the book. So it's kind of like, if you will, like the Bible of self-development. It's like you get a taste of everything, so you don't have to read 50 books, but at the same time you can go deeper if you would like to, if one topic interests you.
Definitely. And I think that it comes back to the aspect of personality and community. Because great, like we love Tim Robbins and his content, or Tim Ferriss or what have you, but then I want to know who Ismael Verduzco, what's his take on habit forming. Hey Ismael, how do you find mentors? So I rather, again, I will consume both, but I find that listening to Latino authors, learning from their experience, resonates at a personal level. That again, nothing against people that have a different background. It's just that, again, like we need to seek content that resonates with us. And I love that you mentioned that less words and less PowerPoint, more storytelling.
More storytelling.
More storytelling, because people will forget the numbers or the dates or all those things, but they'll remember the good stories.
Cool, man.
That's awesome. Well, Ish, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. Where can people find you?
Find me anywhere online, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. It's just at Ish Verduzco, ISHBERDUZCO. And like Hugo mentioned, the book is going to be out on Amazon by the time you listen to this. So just type in "Get Ish Done" on Amazon and you can check it out. I'll put it on sale for like at least the first couple of weeks. So yeah, enjoy. Let me know. Give me feedback. What did you like? What did you not like? I'm always here for that.
Awesome. Remember, feedback is a gift.
Feedback is a gift.
Awesome. Thank you, Ish.
No problem. Thank you, bro.